Okay, I'm back. Right now, I'm at the bottom of page 10, and we're going to compare two variables that have different means by using z-scores. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use two different color highlighters to go through the problem and highlight the information that's given. What we're going to notice is that this student took two different exams. So we're going to start with one color highlighter, and every time we refer to the first exam, we'll highlight in one color. And every time we refer to the other exam, we'll highlight in another color so our information is nicely organized. So let's just read. One college student received a 78 on the French exam and an 86 on their math exam. Okay, I'll come back for the math. The overall results on the French exam had a mean of 72 and a standard deviation of 8, while the math exam had a mean of 68 and a standard deviation of 12. So what we have here is one score on one exam, a second score on another exam, and two different means and standard deviations for each. And in the end, we're asked on which did she do relatively better. So when we want to think of something that's relatively better, then what we are looking for is the larger z-score. Because this student took two exams and they have two different averages and two different standard deviations, we cannot just compare the scores to one another. What we can do, however, is compute one z-score for French and one z-score for math, and then compare the two scores we have. So we're going to do that, which means I'm going to make a small chart for French and a small chart for math to organize the information. And what we need is an X bar, and an S to be able to fill in the z-score formula. Oh, recall that from last class and from the previous video, I'll put it in the top here, we were using the formula using only our Latin alphabet. So it was X minus X bar all over S, just so that was a little easier to understand than the formula with Greek letters. So let's just go back into the paragraph. For French, we know that the mean is 72, that's X bar, and the standard deviation is 8, which means that X is the actual score we got on the exam, which we know is a 78 now. So let's move to math. We know that the mean for math is a 68, and the standard deviation is 12, and looking at the actual score we got, we scored an 86. So what our goal is to create a z-score for French and a z-score for math. So I'm actually going to make a z with like an F subscript for French, and we're going to set up the work here. So that would be 78, our X value, minus our mean, 72, close the parentheses, all divided by the standard deviation. And if we do this work here in our calculator, you'd find that the z-score for French is 0.75. So what we just found out is that the French exam is 0.75 standard deviations above the mean. Now let's check math. So let's make a z-score for math. We would take the exam score we actually got, 86, and subtract the mean, which was 68. Don't forget the parentheses. And then cut it by the standard deviation. And when we do this, we find that the z-score for math is 1.5. So based on what we said at the beginning, on which exam did she do relatively better, comparing the two sizes of the z-scores, she did relatively better on math. And I'm going to say because it is more standard deviations above the mean than French. I want to make sure everyone is crystal clear. Our z-score is larger, so it is more standard deviations above the mean, which means that we did better overall on the math exam compared to the rest of the class than we did on the French exam compared to the rest of the class. All right, keep up the hard work. I'll see you in the next video.